All right, welcome back everybody. I just wanted to take a few moments of your time and create an introduction to this video. So here in February part 2, you'll see that I start off by talking about the North Carolina State Beekeepers Association Spring Artisan Show results. And then the month transitions into quite a few warm days of just observing the hive entrances, which is truly amazing to see considering how cold the month started and how warm it became towards the end of the month. And then towards the end of the video, you'll see just a few clips of me preparing the swarm traps, how I bait them, and then getting them hung. I would like to say thank you in advance for everybody that has tuned in and decided to watch this video. I understand that these videos have become kind of long in nature over the winter months as they transitioned into more vlog style videos. However, as the seasons are about to change very soon and very shortly, the videos will also become a little shorter in nature as I share key things that I do to prepare for the season, and then as the season progresses and the videos turn back into what folks are used to seeing, which is inspection style videos. Let's take a look at February part 2. All right, hey, welcome back everybody. Happy Sunday. So here it is, Sunday, February 8th, about a quarter to noon. Outside temp is 35 degrees. Inside the shed here, it's a comfortable 65, but that one warm afternoon day, which I think was Friday afternoon when it was in the 40s, maybe 50s. Yeah, that's a thing of the past already. So as you can see, right, it's the following day. I didn't review the photos and share the judges' notes like I said I was going to yesterday, mainly because the lighting in the dining room at the table and everything, it's bright. It's just really not great for videos. So let's see, what can we do here? So I got all the photos laid out from left to right. The photos I did in place, and then third place, second place, and then the electronic media down below. I also have the honey label over here, if you can see that or not. I'll adjust the camera angle here in a second. So yeah, we'll just go left to right with the photos that did in place. Third, second, first, do the honey label at the end. Maybe sharing some of this info for all the North Carolina beekeepers that are a member of the state association. Maybe it'll help you in the future, whether that's the summer meeting coming up here soon. I think they said it's gonna be like in the Winston-Salem area. Check the website, of course. But if you can't make it to that one, New Bern every 2 years. So this time in 2028, you got plenty of time to prep. So hopefully maybe some of this information will help you out. Let me know in the comments if it does or doesn't, I guess. So yeah, let's get to it. Just gonna adjust the camera so it's more of a over the shoulder type view, and then we can review the notes, and that'll be it for today. All right, let's get started. So down here on the left, this was the photo I entered into the close-up / macro photo. Keep in mind the category title of close-up. So for the subject, I received 20 of 25 points, composition 15 of 15, creativity 5 of 10, technical 20 of 30 points. Technical has a few notes here: exposure and contrast, full tonal range, light to dark, focus and sharpness, color balance, attractiveness of color balance or black and white tones. 20 of 10, right? Presentation, 15 of 15, which is matting, quality, and design. That's probably because of the frame. Caption, 5 of 5, provides context and or information on the subject in the image. So the caption I came up with was population strength at peak buildup. I try to be short and sweet and something kind of catchy. So I received 80 of 100 points for the close-up / macro photography category, and the judges' comments are compelling composition. I like the action element. It's not really a macro image. So again, close up or macro. All right, moving right along. This, to me, is one of my favorite pictures. One, I'll show you a close-up. I don't know if it's really going to come up on camera, but to be able to see the bees in flight with how crisp some of them are, I like it. All right, so this is the open class category. So keep in mind, this same photo, because it didn't place first or second, that's the state rules. This same photo I entered into the portrait category. We'll talk about that here in a second, in 24. So this year I opened it into the open photo class category because in 2024, the comment, and I clearly remember this, the comment says, it said, great photo, would have placed first if we could see your face. Got it, right? So, open class. So for subject, relationship to beekeeping is worth 15 points. Originality, impact is worth 10. And I received 15 of 25 for the subject. Composition, 10 of 15. Creativity, 4 of 10. Technical, there's quite a few notes here which they're pretty much the same from what I read before, just a different format. Technical, 20 of 30. Presentation, 14 of 15. Same thing, matting, quality, and design. I think because of the frame, it's a nice frame. Caption, 4 of 5. And the caption is colony behavior during active flight. For a total of 67 points of 100. And the judge's comments, nice shot, but cropped a bit too close and too contrasty. So, either way, I like it. It's going up on the wall in the honey house. To each their own. Alrighty, moving right down the line. So, third place. This is the black and white monotone photography section. And the notes are, let's see, subject, 24 of 25. Composition, 13 of 15. Creativity, 6 of 10. I don't know if it's the same judge judging all of the photos, but there's no name on here, and I wouldn't share it anyway, but whoever it is or whoever they were, creativity, definitely hard for me at least to get max points. Technical, 20 of 30. Presentation, again, probably because of the nice frame and maybe it's formatted nice, I guess. 14 of 15. And caption, 5 of 5. Holy smokes. The caption is final assessment before honey harvest. And as you can see, it's me giving a glimpse of a fully capped frame as I'm checking it in the medium box. Judges' comments. Again, keep in mind, this is the black and white category. Too dark, could have a more creative angle, but we like the action. And that plays third. Alrighty, down here, second place. This is the portrait photo category. See, you can see my face. All right, subject, 21 to 25 points. Composition, 13 of 15. Creativity, 4 of 10. Jeez, 4 of 10. Technical, 22 of 30. Presentation, 15 of 15. That's nice. Caption, 5 of 5. And the caption is assessing brood health. It says, nice job. This is the comments. Nice job. Good subject matter. A bit dark on the face, but overall very nice. Congrats. I mean, yeah, it's hard to get lighting just right, especially when I'm wearing a veil. So, again, it is what it is. So, that's that. All right, finally, first place, right? So electronic media, that's just a category that I really enjoy, and it's nice to be recognized, right? So I entered electronic media back in 24 as well. I think I just entered two categories, electronic media and portrait, which is this one, which we already talked about. So last year, or I'm sorry, the last meeting in 24, just based off memory for the electronic media, the judges' comments, I placed third. I don't know if I said that just now, but I placed third, and the judges' comments were something along the lines of, I wish there was more talking or explanation or something. So it's just electronic media. It's not an instructional video category. So in my opinion, if it was an instructional video category, yeah, sure, there'd be more talking. But just like in 24, it was a semi-short clips of, you know, just things throughout the year, which is what this is. But I digress. All right, so for electronic media, here's a different category. Aesthetic appeal, 22 of 25. Subject matter theme, 18 of 20. Technical proficiency, 15 of 15. Creativity, 12 of 15. Originality, 13 of 15. Compliance to rules, I'll actually expound on that here in a second. 10 of 10 for a score of 90. Judges' comments, very enjoyable, some great shots in there, and told the story well. Cheers. It's very nice of them. And I'm very proud of this. In fact, this is the video on YouTube as the 2026 introduction, mainly for non-subscribers. So if you come to the channel, this will just start playing on its own. Just to show folks, you know, it gives them a 3-minute snapshot of things throughout the year, starting in March and ending in the fall, or practically winter, between chasing swarms, harvesting honey, well, inspecting the bees, harvesting honey, bottling honey, going to the market, the whole thing. And you can look at it in the 2026 playlist. All right, so last but not least, the honey label. The rules, not that I have them in front of me, maybe I'll share them, maybe I won't, maybe I'll just talk about them later, but I'm confident I can paraphrase pretty well. The main point really is the rules did not specify the type of bottle, whether it was plastic or glass, and I believe the rules even said you don't have to have honey, because they're not judging the honey, it's just the label. But I figured, you know, a honey label category, why not present a bottle of honey, right? All right, so for the honey jar label, that's the actual category. So aesthetic appeal, 35 of 35, that's nice. Readability, 25 of 25, I would agree. Creativity, 12 of 15. I think it's pretty creative, and we'll talk about it here in a second. Originality, 15 of 15, absolutely, there's nothing like it. Required components, 10 of 10, for a score of 97 of 100. And I placed fourth. Fun fact, there was a 1-point difference with me tying for third, and obviously a 2-point difference for placing for third or second. So what was I going to talk about? Readability, creativity, originality, creativity. Well, readability and originality, 100%, max points. Creativity, right? So something I changed in the previous original label was putting honey more towards the top, because that's part of the rules. Honey has to appear in the top third of the label, because originally I had the old school stacked hives, and it had like wildflower honey down here when I was bottling on mason jars, but Ball stopped making those mason jars, the smooth-sided ones, so I figured it was a good time to recreate the label, so this is what we came up with. So it says North Carolina honey, and then right below it, raw, unfiltered, small batch, right? All true. Our logo, of course, and then right before or right under the logo, it says sustainably sourced and hand harvested in Eastern North Carolina. I thought that would be something that's creative to share. It tells people exactly, you know, how we do it. The ingredients, of course, 100% raw honey, and then right below that it says untouched, because it's not adulterated at all. Unheated, we don't heat it past like 110 degrees, and unmatched, for sure. Kidding. And then do not feed to infants under 1 year of age, and then the net weight in ounces and grams. to include, not that this matters because it's just a honey label category, but to include the certified honey producer sticker on top, and then of course our QR code on the back that takes people over to the socials. All right, so I was just going back through my notes. I haven't looked at the state website yet, but basically I was looking back in 24 to see what the Artisan Show rules were back then, mainly to see what the details were for the portrait category, because I wanted to talk about that. Unfortunately, for now, I only have the 2024 schedule on my phone. I'm going to look on the website here in a second, and maybe I'll share that. But the reason I was looking at that is because I was very curious to see if the artisan category, or if the Artisan Show rules were the same for the portrait category. And the reason I'm mentioning this and I want to talk about it is because for this year, the portrait category, it says person or beekeeping procedure in appropriate setting. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, in 24, and I still have the judges' scorecards and feedback. It's just in the desk drawer. So for 24, this did not place at all because you couldn't see my face. I don't know right now. I don't know if 24's rules read the same because it mentions beekeeping procedure. So for 26, and I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. I'm just sharing some thoughts. This obviously took second, and I entered this specifically into the portrait category because you can see my face. And it also kind of doubles down on the beekeeping procedure. The photo that took first place, it was a nice photo, don't get me wrong. It was a shot of somebody pulling a queen rearing frame out of a box, pretty much all the way, maybe 90% out. You could see all the bees hanging from the developed queen cells and everything. It was a nice photo, right? The only heartache, per se, and the only reason I say that is because I can't really think of a better word right now, but the only heartache I have with that, and with whoever judged it really, is you couldn't see the person's face at all. Again, going back to 24, that's why the photo here didn't place, because you couldn't see my face. But obviously, beekeeping procedure, smoking the entrance. So I thought for this year, one, again, you can see my face, but I am also conducting a beekeeping procedure, inspecting the hives. So I figured I would check both requirements off. But either way, hey, first and second place gets the job done. One, it's fun. Yeah, sure, there's a little validation there, right? But because I am pursuing the master level certification, one of the subspecialty categories is first or second place, obviously paraphrasing because I'm not reading, first or second place in quite a few categories at a state meeting, essentially. So the spring meeting, the summer meeting. It may also include the joint meeting between the Carolinas. Don't quote me on that. If you're interested in pursuing any certifications and master, definitely refer to the state website. But because I have this stuff easily accessible and I know exactly where to look, I'll just share the exact details with you here in a second. So for the subspecialties, for the master level, is it reads exactly like this: demonstrate expertise in the production of the below classes by winning first or second place in an authorized honey competition. And then there's a note. So there's quite a few categories, which is kind of cool. Liquid extracted honey, so that'd be for the summer meeting. Comb, cut comb, or chunk honey, again, summer meeting. Same thing with C, which is crystallized, spun, or creamed honey. Beeswax, that was a category that I've never entered in, and that is something I could enter in with at the spring meeting. And shout out to, I think her name is Susan Warwick, something like that. She won, she won, I don't even know how many first place she won, but it was for a lot of beeswax, rendered candles, cosmetics, I think. She won the most points for all of the Artisan Show categories, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, but beeswax, mead and beverages, cosmetics, there you go, cosmetics, lotions, and potions, cooking with honey, and then photography and paintings, artwork and crafts, and any J, it says any sanctioned competition class that does not fit in one of the above. So I'm going to submit, when I turn everything in, I'm going to submit the results for first place with the electronic media because one, it was at a sanctioned competition, and two, obviously that category is not listed specifically with A through I. All right, so hey, there you go. Thanks for watching, everybody. Just wanted to give you a full rundown. Like I said, as I got started, maybe some of this information will help anybody who has never entered into the artisan show. I started keeping bees in 2017, if y'all don't know that, or if I haven't shared it recently. And the first state meeting I was able to attend was 2024. I completely overlooked the fact that they have an artisan show, or I just didn't understand what it was. And then I stumbled across the questions, or not the questions, but I stumbled across the guidelines, the rules, like days before the meeting. And once I saw photography, I thought, how cool, would it be to enter some? And then electronic media. So in all honesty, in 24, I wasn't terribly prepared. But having registered well enough in advance, and then also knowing there's an artisan show now to where I knew it was something I would want to compete in and enter some items, I prepared. I feel like I prepared a little better this time around, and hopefully you can tell it shows, right? First, second, and third. First and second, 2 credits towards the subspecialties for master, which is awesome. Note number 1 and note number 2, I didn't talk about that, but note number 1, well, let's just read it. An authorized honey competition is defined by NCSBA as a sanctioned honey show, North Carolina State Managed Honey Show, which is i.e. Mountain State Fair, Raleigh State Fair, that's kind of cool, or any honey show judged by the American Honey Show Training Council or a similar standardized judging process, including EAS, ABF, and a whole bunch of others. And then note number 2, you may include up to 3 subspecialty credits for item 1 on this list when submitting documentation for satisfaction of so on and so forth. So yeah, for number 1, again, which is, what is that? Demonstrating expertise in the production of liquid honey, beeswax, photography, so on and so forth. So you can actually get 3 credits for that, which would have been awesome because that would have taken me to, I think, 5 of 6 is what I would have been at. So currently I'm at 4 of 6 subspecialties, and I have a plan to kind of put a nice bow on the final 2. I just have to ask some questions to get some clarity, but yeah, took the test. Don't feel confident at all about that. Passed the practical. That was not bad at all. And I think I said this on the way home. I was actually not going to do that. I was just going to take the written test, take the practical at a later special testing event, assuming Eric was going to have one again, which he did in late 24, about 6 months after the meeting. But since there was like no real line, I waited for maybe 10 minutes this time around for the practical in comparison to 3+ hours and 24 for the practical, which is a good thing because that meant a lot of people were taking the practical. But since the line was long, or since the line was not long this time, I figured, hey, I'm here. And the final categories were judging a jar of honey for a show, which was not terrible at all. Pesticides, their use and decisions or something like that, which wasn't bad. Bees and wasps, which honestly I did not study, but out of the 10+, maybe 12 pictures they have on the page, you had to identify 7. And what was the last category? Definitely not anatomy, that's for sure. It'll come to me in a second. bees and wasps, honey jar. All right, for some reason, I thought there was 10 practical application categories. There's only 9. So when I took the journeyman in 24, I chose 5, passed the 5. So out of the 9, I had 4 remaining, and you need 8 in total. So I just chose 3 this time around, which again, we're scoring a honey jar, pesticide labels, and then bees and wasps. What I didn't know, somebody may have said this and I just totally forgot, but what I did not know in 24 is you could test out of the practical completely for journeyman and master, I guess. Somebody had mentioned that. Doesn't exactly make sense because until you pass the master test or the journeyman test, anything you do beforehand doesn't count. So don't quote me on that. That's something somebody mentioned. I don't know if they were one of the master beekeepers or the folks conducting the practical, but it just stuck in my mind and struck me as interesting because if I knew that then, I just would have pushed through all the practical categories. But nonetheless, I needed 3 of the 4. And the 4th one that I intentionally chose not to try is honeybee biology and anatomy. Not a strong suit at all. Never has been. I don't want to say never will be because I definitely need to brush up on that. I just need to figure out a study method that works better, probably flashcards or something. But yeah, honeybee analogy, the scientific names, the Latin names, I mean, not my thing. But, you know, if I want to advance to this level, perhaps I should give it a little more effort. All right, hey, that's all for me. Wish me luck. The tests are being graded right now. Eric's pretty quick with it. At least he was in 24, and I'm sure he will be now, or this time around. He did mention something as I was waiting around for the practical. Somebody asked how many tests were, you know, administered on Saturday. And he mentioned he had printed 15 tests for masters, and he had 1 copy left. So at least 14 people tested for masters, with me being 1. Point being, he might only have 14 tests to grade, which probably doesn't take him a long time given all the things that he knows. So yeah, wish me luck because I feel like that email might be coming through today or tomorrow. But if I didn't share this, public service credits, good to go. Subspecialties, again, I have a plan to close up the last 2. I just need to get some clarity on one of them. The written test, right? That's the big one, TBD. And the practical, I'm good. So, yeah, if I passed this written test, I could probably get all this done by summertime easy. So, wish me luck because that will be the fastest turnaround. Not that that's really anything terribly important to me, but that'll be the fastest turnaround for myself from one level to another. Real quick, let me just run you through my background, right? So, started keeping bees in the spring of 17. Before that, though, took the local bee school, which was great. It was great. That was a great way to start. Cost a little bit, but money well invested, especially in yourself and your education. So took the bee school early 17, got bees in March of 17, and then certified in September because Onslow County, at least back then, they did the bee blast, the big event for the new folks to get certified. We did that over the summer and then certified, or the certificate got signed off in September, I believe, September 17. And then did not really do too much to advance to journeyman, and the journeyman requirements have not changed, which are 5 service credits. Masters is 10, right? So 5 service credits, and then pass the written and the practical, a few of the practical categories, right? So that's late 17. Took the journeyman test for the first time at the spring meeting in 24, so 2 years ago. Did not pass, missed it by two points, 2 questions actually, 4 points. And I know exactly what those 2 were, or some, because I guessed on 2 questions that had basically, if you got them right, if you got one right, you would have got both right, and obviously I did not. So I missed it by 2, slightly discouraged, still took the practical, passed 5 of the practical categories, so I knew I just needed to do some studying. The master beekeeping program sent out some emails, and then the closest for special testing events, and then the closest one over in New Bern that I could attend was in November. Took the practical, felt better, ended up passing it, so that was cool. And then received the certificate, I think at December's meeting. So November of 24, journeyman, all is well. I got hot and heavy on the public service credits right away because I knew I wanted to advance a lot faster than what, 17 to 24, what is that, 7 years? Yeah, I didn't want to do that again, and there was no need to. But I will say this much, right? So from certified to journeyman, you have to give it a year in between. So I wouldn't be able to do anything, let's back up. I wouldn't be able to do anything until September of 18. So I was deployed all of 18. And then in 19, moved over to one of the squadrons. Life got busy for 2 years. A lot of workups for deployments, and then a deployment, which was workups in 19, and then deployed summer of 21, if that's right. No. Deployed fall of 20 through summer of 21, and then caught orders, went out to Cali for a year, summer of 21 to 22, and then I've been back since 22. So there was a lot of time lost there. It doesn't really count against you, but I just, I was away from the bees, and between out of country, out of state, I couldn't really do anything as far as the public service credit. So got back, got serious, really started to get serious in, well, let's fast forward, right? So started to get serious once I got back, got into the bees, got a little more active with things. I believe I needed a few more public service credits. That's what it was. So I started taking care of that when I got back. Again, tested at the spring, ended up passing in the fall of 24. And then with all that said, I knew I didn't want to take that much time to advance from journeyman to master. I wasn't seeing how fast I could do it because you have to have the journeyman certification for a year, which was November 25. So we're not terribly past that, right? But in the meantime, since November of 24, I wanted to get hot and heavy on the public service credits because now you need 10 instead of 5. And then the subspecialties is the new aspect. And then reading some of them and looking them over, things kind of fell in place between local media, the news, the newspaper, I think another article or something. And then with taking a leadership role with the county club and then doing some other things, the public service credits started really falling into place, and so did the subspecialties. So here we are again, wish me luck. Hopefully I pass the test. More doubtful than anything, but that's just how I am. So if I do end up passing the test, yeah, 2 more subspecialties, and that's it. So I could have it by the summer. All right, hey, wish me luck. Good luck to everybody else out there too that's advancing to journeyman, to master, and beyond. Truly mean it. It is a lot of work. It is a lot of dedication, as we all know, but perhaps the public may not be aware of that. They just see certified beekeeper, journeyman beekeeper, master beekeeper. I'm sure people make certain assumptions on all those things because it's just like anything else, in my opinion. If you don't truly know what it means and all the work and time and dedication it requires to get from one level to another, you just don't know. No harm, no foul, but it's part of our job to educate the public on what all that stuff means, to include, all the things about bees. Hey, thanks for watching. I know this was a lot longer than I planned for it to be, but if you're still watching right now, I appreciate it. Yeah, that's it for now. Let's wrap up by looking at the weather, see if that's changed, because it's a lot colder than it was when I was talking about the weather a few days ago. And now my window of opportunity to get the pollen patties into the hives, which hopefully they arrive on Monday. That's what they're scheduled for. My window of opportunity now is only Tuesday and Wednesday afternoon. Tuesday's high is 66, Wednesday's high is 64. And if the weather continues to be the same like it was on Friday, Friday's high on the app read 48, and here was like in the low to mid 50s. because Thursday through Saturday, which was also in my window of opportunity, which was great because obviously that gives me more options. Thursday's high is 52, Friday's is 47, and Saturday is 45. Sunday has rain with a high of 57, so maybe 60 here, which would be good too, if I can do things in between the rain. So yeah, it's that time of year, which is not uncommon for us here in Jacksonville, Onslow County, Eastern North Carolina. The weather's typically all over the place. So I am trying to do a better job of paying more attention to the weather, mainly so I can do certain things when I have a limited amount of time to do so, in an effort to get the rest of the surviving colonies to the spring. All right, stay tuned, everybody. All right, hey, welcome back, everybody. So it is Monday, February 9th, right at 4 p.m. The temperature is 48 degrees and 23% right here at the house. I just want to walk out here, see if there's any activity. It is a very cool 48. I'm not really banking on seeing much activity. In fact, there's still some snow on the ground. But let me look at the weather app again, because I think tomorrow's temps are still very, very favorable to where hopefully we see a lot of activity on all of the hives. Right, so let me pull that up real quick. Yeah, if you can see that, there's a few bees on the second hive. Tomorrow's high is 67. And I also have not checked to see where my pollen patties are at, but they're supposed to arrive today. I'd imagine they're still on the way since they weren't at the house when I got home. But yeah, tomorrow's high, 67. It's going to get cold tonight. I should probably fix that. If you can see the snow and ice on the last line there. It's going to get cold tonight, and it is cool back here. So right around 11 p.m., it's below freezing until 5 a.m. So yeah, cold nights, which is fine. The bees will cluster, and then they should probably break the cluster tomorrow probably around 10 a.m. So the weather app says at 10 a.m. tomorrow it's going to be 52, but like I've mentioned a few times, either in this video or the last video, we are usually a few degrees warmer and cooler than the app in the phone. So if it's 52 at 10 a.m. tomorrow, I'm willing to bet here it's going to be at least above 55. And then 1 p.m., yeah, 64 degrees, 2 p.m., 66 degrees. And it actually just continues to get warmer. 3 p.m., that's as far as I can see right now, 67 degrees. So there is a really good chance tomorrow afternoon we might see temperatures in the low 70s here at the house. So if that's the case, yeah, tomorrow is my best opportunity to get the pollen patties added to the hives. And as I walk and talk, I'm trying to navigate my phone at the same time. And all right, so it says it's in transit, and the last thing I just saw, it says it's over in Fayetteville, which is about 2 hours from us. I'm trying to see if it tells me an actual delivery date, which I'm not seeing, unfortunately. I was pretty sure they're supposed to arrive today. Here, let me look at the tracking info. Yeah, actually it says it arrives today, so awesome. Hopefully nothing changes in the next few hours. I think it's coming via FedEx maybe. But yeah, if that arrives today, for sure, I will be out here tomorrow afternoon adding some pollen patties, checking on the fondant patties, of course. And then I did have the thought last night, as we are progressively getting closer and closer to the season really kicking off, that it might not be the worst idea in the world to whip up some thin 1-to-1. So 1-to-1 is a good nectar source, sugar source. 2-to-1 obviously is a little thicker for overwintering, but thinner sugar water that is slightly thinner than 1-to-1. I think it's like a 1 to
I don't even remember. I posted it once upon a time, or I shared a file somewhere for a recipe, but slightly thinner than 1-to-1 is supposed to really help brood rearing, really kick the queen into gear to really start laying some eggs and raising some brood. So the thought was here very soon, probably closer to the end of the month, so maybe another 2 weeks or so, start buying some sugar and start whipping up some thin sugar water to really get them going. So between that, between the fondant patties and between the pollen patties, the remaining hives, you know, hopefully, right, because that's all we can really do, hopefully pull through the winter and really give them a boost in all food sources, proteins and carbs that they need to really start building the brood nest. All right, hey, welcome back everybody, and welcome to Eastern North Carolina weather. The reason I say that is because it is Monday, February 10th. It's just after 2 o'clock. The weather app says it is 67 degrees, but the Accurate app, based off the weather station right here on the property, says it is 72.7 degrees, and it definitely feels like it. It's also 43% humidity. You know what I'm doing? I'm walking out to the yard, because if I'm going to see activity, it's definitely going to be today. And because I'm right at the fence, I can tell you this much, it is definitely happening. Check this out. This is awesome, but at the same time, I have not walked around and seen the front of the hives just yet. So let's go do that. I am really hoping and praying that I see activity on all of the hives. That's what we're going for. Oh my goodness, this is great. And then I will explain what I'm going to do today. So timing couldn't be any better between the weather that we're experiencing right now and the fact that my Hive Alive fondant patties arrived maybe an hour ago. Holy smokes, look at that. If y'all can see that double deep with the medium. So far, it looks like activity on all the hives, some more than others, but that's kind of to be expected. Good God, look at these down here. All right, so I just wanted to come out to the yard first, show a first look with the first warm weather we've had in quite a while. They all look like they're alive. They all have great activity, which is a good sign, right? So I'm gonna take advantage of the weather. I'm gonna change over here in a second. I'm gonna pop the tops, check the fondant patty stores, and then I am definitely going to provide a half-pound patty of the pollen substitute to each hive right around above the brood area, and between the fondant patty, which is your carbs, and between the pollen patty, which is your protein. Those are the two items the hives need to really start rearing some brood. So that should definitely get them going in the right direction. I'll show you a close-up clip here in a little bit once I change over, because with this much activity, I really don't want to get too close, considering I do not have any protective equipment on right now. But I'm going to change over here in a second. I'll show you a close-up of a few of the hives, because I am really curious to see if they're bringing in pollen, a lot of pollen, or just whatever the case is. All right, let's get started. So it is just after 2:30. Like I said, quick check of the fondant patties. That one looks good. I just need to give myself some room to work, because I plan on taking off the top box here, setting them aside, and then adding a half-pound of the pollen patty. So, as you can see, got this thing ready to go, and simply just use the hive tool to cut it. Probably end up cutting it in half again. First time using the Hive Alive pollen patties. In fact, this is only the second time ever using a pollen patty. First time was quite a few years ago, and it was some homemade stuff that was given to me, which is very, very nice of the beekeeper that did that. But yeah, I've never used pollen patties before. I usually open feed, which seems to work okay, but in an effort to really help the hives this year, I'm exploring all options. I don't know if this is still on camera. I'll do a better job maybe for the next hives or so, but there you go, bees. Best of luck. All right, down here at 24, and I think you can see this, but it looks like this hive is clustering right now 100% in the top box. And for the first pollen patty that I just added, I just simply cut it in half. But here I am, very next hive, and already changing stuff up. I cut this one into 4 pieces with the thought process that it provides more surface space for the bees to access the four pieces of the pollen patty. And you know what? I've seen a lot of bees coming and going from the back entrance here, just because that's how I have the inner cover configured. So considering that's probably not really necessary anymore, and this gives me a quick peek at this colony. The top box does have some nice weight to it, so they're just clustered at the top, but I wanted to take the time, reverse the inner cover so the entrance is now facing the front. All right, down here at the next hive, which is number 11, they have a nice amount of bees working the fondant. So again, I am just using what I have, which is the hive tool, to cut the pollen patty in half. So essentially that's a ½ pound now. And then cut this into 4ths, so the bees have the maximum surface area to access the pollen. This is I don't know if I talked about it. This is Hive Alive's 15%. They have 2 versions. This one and the other one I believe is 4% or something. I remember it being seems like a significant difference in pollen percentage. All right, 4 pieces, got it. Here's some bonus pollen for the shim. Let me smoke them. Okay, way more bees than the previous hive, so this should be interesting. Yep. And here we go. I am just adding the pollen around what I would imagine is the brood area. So have at it, bees. That should definitely help you out. All right, that's that. Actually, this probably wasn't the best idea, so put that somewhere else. All right, moving along, move the camera down a ways just to give a different angle, but this is number 19. They are one of the few, if not the last one, in a single deep. A lot of activity. Oh yeah, a lot of activity to say the least. I did not prep this well, but let's see what we can do here. A lot of activity on the fondant patty, and as soon as I cracked the inner cover, the bees were there to greet me. So let me greet them real quick with some smoke, which they definitely haven't seen in a while. All right. As I get organized, I don't know why, I don't know what I was really thinking, honestly, but let's do let's do what I usually do, so everything is the same. Yeah, they should definitely benefit from some pollen because they have a nice looking cluster. All right, enjoy. Let's put them back together. So actually, since they're a single now, I'm gonna have to change this up. Actually, I'm gonna have to put the shim. I'm gonna have to put the shim down first and put the fondant directly on top the frames. Let's see if I can do this without messing too much up. It's definitely difficult when the fondant bag's running low to get that tool back in, but yeah, I'm gonna keep trying until I get it right. All right, there we go. Not terrible, should work. Yeah, that's a pretty busy colony. That configuration might actually be a little better. I'll have to consider that. Possibly going back and reversing a few. Down here at 20, got the fondant split up into fourths, and they are configured as, what is this? Deep and a medium. So let's see, let's take, well, let me pop the inner cover. Okay, so we have bees up in the top box. So what I might end up doing is reversing the shim and the inner cover like I was describing before. I'm adding the 4, I know you can't see this, but I'm adding the 4 pollen pieces to basically like the 4 quadrants. Yeah, this works out a little better, I guess. Surrounding the pollen, or surrounding the fondant, and then putting the inner cover back on top there. So I may have said this in a video or two ago, but my concern with that is the shim. The shim doesn't sit as flush as the inner cover on top of the top box, and that's why I reversed them. But since I need the space for the pollen patty, I guess this is just gonna have to work. All right, that took a few minutes, but I ended up going back down through the hives that I just finished with and reversed the inner covers and the shim, just to give the bees some space for the pollen patty. So I'm down here at 14 now, and I'll continue to do the same as long as, I guess, it makes sense. But as I say that, with a colony like this one here, that is a deep with 2 mediums, curious how I'm gonna do this. So bees in the top box because they're on the fondant, right? In between the 2 mediums, there's a nice cluster. So I guess I'm just gonna have to take them apart to figure out what exactly is going on. Let's look between the second medium and the deep. Let's see what that looks like. And it is heavy. So, yeah, there's a ton of bees everywhere. So I'm just gonna put the 4 patties, the 4 pieces of fondant in between the 2 mediums. They'll get squished a little bit, but there's a good chance that is probably the best place to put it. I have no idea what this sounds like because this is the first time I've used the microphone with this many bees. So there we go. That should be okay. All right, moving right along down here at 6. So basically the same thing, if you haven't guessed that. And there are a ton of bees on the fondant. So I think it would be a safe assumption. There's a ton of bees in between the, man, I didn't even use that, in between the inner cover and this top box. Oh yeah. I mean, as soon as I'm cracking it, they're greeting me, so I think that's probably not even worth messing with. And I am just gonna add, I'm just gonna add the pollen between the top 2 boxes. Here you go. Oop, enjoy. This should definitely help y'all out, that's for sure. And this stuff is sticky, sticky, sticky. Alright, there you go. Enjoy, bees. Moving right along to number 5. This seems to be another extremely strong colony. And okay, that's a first. They could actually use a fondant replacement. And they're in luck because I brought some. Yeah, it's a decent amount of bees right there between the inner cover and the first box. So let's do this real quick. Add the fondant, no, add the pollen. Yeah, this is a nice colony here. In between the top 2 boxes. That should take care of them. All right, I'm not trying to squish anybody, but you do have to move out of the way. All right. Yeah, let's get them a fondant patty too while I'm out here. Sure, right here. I'm just speaking for myself, but I'm sure there's a lot of beekeepers in the area that were really looking forward to this weather and also hoping nothing changed, which it definitely didn't. We've needed a we've needed a break in the weather to be able to get out into the yards and do stuff like this. So this is absolutely fantastic. And of course, a bee got me right in the wrist. It's almost like they know where to try and sting you. It's impressive sometimes. Out of the entire suit, they'll find the one crevice, which is usually around the legs somewhere, or right around the wrist is the other vulnerability. All right, that's that. So this is, yeah, they can get out of there. Number 5. Number 5 looking very, very nice. Yeah, they're good. All right, down here at 7, I'll change the camera angle here in a second, if I can figure out what I'm trying to do first. All right, yeah, that's it looks like a lot of nice activity on the fondant. So as I keep going back and forth with what I would like to do and how I would like to have the hives configured, I'm actually considering going back to the first few and possibly put in the hives back to how I had them, meaning the that's interesting. All did. Huh. What happened there? investigate real quick. Not that I planned on doing anything like this, but I'm kind of curious now. Looks like they had a lot of brood down here in the bottom box that maybe this last cold spell just kind of zapped them if they were trying to move up and cluster and everything. There's bees down here. Not as many as you'd like to see probably, and I was not intending on... Yeah, no kidding. They had some freeze off, and honestly there's a decent amount of bees, dead bees on the bottom board, so I guess while I'm here, I'm trying to help them out and do some cleanup. Definitely was not planning on doing anything like this today. But maybe that'll help put the entrance reducer on later. Yeah, it looks like they had some decent brood down here that ended up chilling. If you can see that or not. The amount of bees stuck between the frames, the plastic frame, caught my eye. Huh. All right, well, shoot. They'll do their thing. They'll do their thing over time, so we'll just put all that back together and let's see. Yeah, I'm still just going to add the pollen here. If the cluster's right above it, they can still easily get to it. So that's number 7. Definitely should keep my eye on them. Up next is 25. They actually have a decent amount of bees in the top here, which is different. It also looks like they could use a fondant refresh. So, since I'm out here. And what do I want to do here? Yeah, actually, let's do this. I want to turn this around, just like one of the other hives. So I'm gonna add the pollen first to kind of get that done with. All right, good to go. We got bees between the boxes, so placing the pollen in between should work out nicely. And then refresh their fondant, and that's that. Okay. And since I lost a few hives, I have a few extra of these Hive Alive Fondant Patty tools to use, so I don't have to necessarily completely take the one out that's currently in the hive. All right, they do make it easy. Not everything has to be difficult, so really appreciate it, Hive Alive. If you happen to be watching, very nice and simple tool to use for the fondant patties. All right, just make sure that's over the hole so they can access it. I'll leave that one as is. That should work just fine. And 25 is good to go. Number 9 is next, and I gave them an extra, well, not extra, but I replaced their fondant at some point, and still had a little left in the original bag, but it looks like they're working it nicely. They got some weight to them, which is great. A lot of bees in between the boxes, so you guessed it, The pollen treat will go in between. And there you go. Enjoy. All right, that's that. 22 is up next. A little bit of moisture. Same thing, they pretty much used up the original fondant by now, and they have a decent amount of bees on the current fondant. So they're configured as a double deep. In fact, I could probably slide them down a little to give myself some space. Oh, that top box is heavy. And there's a decent amount of bees in the bottom box, so that is exactly where the pollen's gonna go. There you go. I feel like this colony is going to blow up real quick. All right, last but not least, number 8. They have a lot of bees working the fondant over. So I'm just going to do the same thing. They should be good for a few more days. I don't want to replace it too early, and the weather looks fine to where I can get into them if I need to. It looks like they're clustering in the top box and the top deep. So this should definitely give them a boost, that's for sure. All right, so as I've been doing this, I've been going back and forth regarding the first few colonies, and if you can see this, I just don't like the idea of the shim being directly on top the first box with the inner cover on top of the shim. And I may have said it earlier, but the reason I don't like that is because the shims are not completely flat, and there's a little bit of an air gap here and there. And with any sub-freezing temps or just cold temps, and if the bees are clustered towards the top, I just don't want to run the risk of chilling anything. So let me finish a few things up. I'll sum a few things up, and then probably show you a few shots of the first 3 or 4 hives. I'm gonna reverse and put them back how they were, and move the pollen like I have for most of them this way in between the boxes. All right, back here at number 12, because quite frankly, sometimes I just can't make up my mind. So hopefully this doesn't cause more problems than need be, but like I was saying, that shim isn't exactly flat, and I really don't want to run the risk of creating any problems. So what you're about to see is me put the fondant patty back where it was, right? The shim's gonna have to get set aside for a second. Let me move the pollen patties aside. Yeah, let me move all these aside, because honestly, most of the bees are probably between the boxes, and they're just coming up to the top box to access the fondant. So basically, I'm just going to put it back how I originally had it. But no harm, no foul, you know. It's just a matter of getting back into them, reconfiguring things how you want, and then they'll be good for a few days. All right, that's that. Let's see, what am I doing now? Yes, inner cover, and then the shim, and the outer cover. All right. Let's see. Yeah, I guess we can just let the camera roll. I'm just gonna do the same thing for the next few. So let's set that aside. Let's set this aside. Pretty much just put it where I want it. Put this back basically how it was. Same thing, just grab the pollen patties. And then we're gonna put them between the boxes. Yeah, they are on it, which is exactly what I was hoping to see, given the time of year and the weather and everything. And really, they will bring in some pollen, like early January, when it's just as warm. And then if all that stopped with that weather we had, but yeah, this should definitely give them a boost. All right, there we go. Nothing like doing things twice, but I rather take the time and get things how I want it, knowing it's good, and then I don't have to worry about anything. All right, I just wanted to share this angle with y'all, since this is the last one. I'm gonna modify back to basically how I had things. So let's just move all the pollen off. And I think I mentioned this earlier, whether it was in January's series of videos or earlier this month. I can't exactly remember, but I wanted to make it a point to stick with the feeding calendar that I made over the winter that I shared on all the socials maybe a week or two ago now. But I wanted to stick with the feeding schedule since I just made it, to really see if there's some value there with it. So I'm going off memory right now, but I believe February definitely mentioned fondant patties, but it also said something like consider to start feeding pollen, which is exactly why I ordered it now, so I can start feeding the hives. It can't hurt, right? Like providing any sort of livestock food can't possibly be a bad thing. All right, there you have it, folks. What a wonderful feeling to get back into the hives. It's 3:30, 75 degrees. It feels absolutely great out here. And as y'all saw, they are doing pretty darn well. And now they all have half a pound of pollen patties. Like I was saying, first time using any of the Hive Alive products. They've been on the market for quite some time, so by no means this is any sort of like review or anything like that. This is just me sharing what I'm doing, what I'm using, how I'm using it, how I have the hives configured, so on and so forth. And honestly, so far with the fondant patties, I'll say this much: I am surprised at how slowly, believe it or not, but how slowly the hives have consumed them. There's some hives that I'm very confident when I say this, but there's some hives that I don't believe I have replenished their fondant patty yet. So one of two things: either they're extremely efficient with the food stores they have, or they just had that many food stores to where they didn't really need the fondant patty except for maybe emergency purposes. And then there's some other colonies that they are on their second one, and it looks like they may need a third before the end of the month. But anyway, yeah, this felt great. The weather feels great, obviously. It's a nice change, right? This morning, This morning was below freezing. I think it was like 23 degrees or something. So 23 to 73, a 50-degree temperature swing within less than 12 hours, which it's crazy, right? But yeah, this is awesome. Stay tuned, of course. We'll see how the rest of the month goes. So today's Tuesday, right? So if I just added half a pound of the pollen, yeah, today's Tuesday the 10th. If the weather permits, I will make it a point to check next Tuesday, so a full week later, to see just how much of the pollen they've consumed, and then replenish if need be. But again, considering this is the first time that I've used pollen patties at all, as I say that, I don't know if I finished this thought, but years past, I would open feed dry pollen substitute, which it works. Colonies get pollen substitute, but if you don't know, what you don't realize is, well, which colonies are getting it, which colonies are using it more than others. So this is a more, this is a more controlled feeding method, and that is one of the reasons that I wanted to transition over to pollen patties versus open feeding dry pollen substitute. The cool thing about the pollen sub is really watching the bees feed on it. So I would just put a pound at a time in a 5-gallon bucket turned on its side, and within a day or two, I mean, they're all over it. It makes for some really cool videos. In fact, the few videos I have tagged or marked as favorites or whatever it is, pinned in Instagram, I believe one of them was a sequence of just me walking up to the 5-gallon bucket while I had some pollen sub out day after day, and I think that video got like a few million views, which is cool. But hey, anyway, thanks for watching. This felt great. I am going to, let's see, how many do I have here? 3, anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna move some of the woodenware from the recent dead outs over onto the pile that has paramoth and everything, because the last thing I want to do, just like any of the equipment that's been used and has completely drawn out comb, the last thing I want to do is lose any of that comb to pests, with the main pest being wax moths. But at the same time, check this out real quick. The bees are all over this one. So in fact, you know what? As I say all that, it looks like there's some trace elements of food or something in some of this woodenware that's turned up. So considering the weather is great today, it's going to be probably just as good tomorrow. I'm just going to give the bees today and tomorrow to work the rest of this equipment, and then I'll get it stacked over here, my grab and go pile like I described earlier. All right, that's it for me, folks. Appreciate everybody watching. Hey, welcome back everybody, and happy Valentine's Day. So here it is, Saturday, February 14th, right at 2:30 in the afternoon. Temperature is a very, very nice 61 degrees. Humidity is right around 30%. And let's go see how the bees are doing. Now this is the time of year that I really start to like. Nice reprieve from some very cold days. A lot of very nice bee activity. Let's walk around, show you the front of the entrances, of course. They are extremely active. That is awesome. Yeah, I was out here maybe about 2 hours ago, and the sun was not hitting all the entrances the same, and it was a few degrees cooler. But yeah, now that the sun is really peeking through the trees, it's slightly warmer. I mean, they are definitely enjoying this warm weather. Not too much to talk about, at least as I say that. I imagine they were doing very well, definitely making cleansing flights, enjoying the warm weather. I didn't really I haven't looked at the forecast recently. I was looking at it maybe earlier this morning, but stuff doesn't change too terribly fast. We have some moderate weather this next week. However, late next week, maybe Thursday or Friday, I mean, we're gonna have consecutive days with highs in the low 70s. And that's the weather app on the phone, right? So for us here, there is a very good chance, a very strong possibility that we will experience some temps in the mid 70s. And I am definitely going to make it a point to actually get into the hives and conduct their first inspection, quick assessment of how they're doing, where the brood's at, all those things. I'm going off memory right now, but I fed the pollen patties just a few days ago. If the weather aligns and I have the availability, I'm very curious, which I may have said during the previous series of videos when I was out here feeding the pollen, I'm very curious to see just how much they consume in a week's time. And if they need more, I'll definitely give them more. But if y'all have checked out the socials, primarily Facebook and Instagram, it may have been a few weeks by now, but I shared a feeding calendar just to help folks out. Maybe in the same zone as I am, because it's very climate dependent. And first time using it, first time really trying to put more direct effort into, making a schedule and really abiding by it. But the thought is, with all that, I may have to make a few adjustments, primarily when to provide pollen, which my thoughts are really to start providing pollen as early as December. So the calendar that I'm using, again, for the first time and really just trying it out, it said to start feeding pollen lightly in February, and then a little more in March. It could be January and February, but I'm thinking it's February and March. But we go through enough of a dearth for all things, given it's wintertime, that I'm thinking I may have to back everything up about 1 to 2 months. So all TBD. For March, I plan on feeding some thin sugar syrup. But anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Again, probably late next week, depending on the weather, of course, I will be out here to really get into the hives, see how they're doing, real first look at the brood. And if I haven't said this before, this, at least to memory, right? This is the longest I've gone without really getting into the hives. I'm trying to exercise a little more discipline, a little more patience this year, and just let the hives be. just let them do their thing, because I really don't want to cause any problems this time of year. Meaning, if you do, there's really not much you can do for them other than combine a hive with another, because nobody has queens. You're not making queens. The hives aren't making queens. So really in an effort to do as much as possible by doing as little as possible to ensure the hives get to the spring as well as they can, for the most part, on their own. All right, stay tuned for later this week. Again, I'll get into the hives, look around a little bit, and I'm very curious to see how much of the pollen patty they've consumed in a week, or maybe just over a week, maybe 10 days at max. So we'll see here in a little bit. All right, hey, welcome back, everybody. So here it is, Wednesday, February 18th, just before 2:30. Check this out. It is 73 degrees and 58% humidity, and feels like it's 72. So I meant to get out here yesterday, and that's what my intentions were, but I wasn't able to get home soon enough to capitalize on the weather, and it got a little cooler than I wanted it to be, to check on the pollen patties exactly a week after adding them. So here I am the following day. It's been a week and a day, or 8 days, since adding the pollen patties. That is my main focus, really just crack the boxes apart or check the top box, inner cover, see how the pollen patties are looking and see how the fondant patties are looking. And like usual, before I get started, let's walk around and let's check out this activity because this looks great. All right, that is exactly what I was hoping to see, which is a lot of activity. So like usual, let's just walk down the line quickly. So far, so good. Nothing looks unusual. That right there actually looks fantastic. Coming down here, decent activity and better activity. All right, so I'm just gonna get suited up. I'm gonna get the smoker lit, all the usual things to get started. And then I realized, looking back at the previous clips when I was adding the pollen patties, is I didn't really share the best views because I had the GoPro set up on the tripod. And although it was a decent view of me working the hives, I didn't share any firsthand perspective. So I don't have the tripod with me today. And that's in fact exactly what I'm gonna do. Like how I used to do things, I'm just gonna grab the camera, go hive by hive, and show y'all a firsthand perspective of all the things I just mentioned. Checking the food stores. I am still not ready to start pulling frames because again, it's that time of year to where if anything happens, you know, I'll cause more problems than anything else. So March isn't too far away. I plan on making some splits in March, so that gives me a reason to start pulling frames and looking for good candidates. So for now, the goal is just to get the hives to March. So we're close. We're not there yet, but we're pretty damn close. All right, let me get suited up and let's check on some pollen patties. All right, down here at number 12. Let's see. Oh, wow. Okay. That is not what I was expecting to see. I'm sure you can see this, but let's take a better look. They are completely out. I also didn't mention that I did not bring any resupplies with me because I figured I would just take note of who needs what and then come back through and replenish things. All right, let's take a look in between the boxes. And I'm gonna see if I can do this with one hand. But from what I can tell, that ½ pound of pollen patty is actually lasting pretty long. So 8 days later, right? And everybody received ½ pound. They probably have at least a ¼ pound left. All right, down here at the very next one, number 24, they actually have more fondant left in both bags. So I'm just gonna leave that alone. And let's pop the boxes apart real quick. Okay, yeah, same thing. So I do recall from last week with this hive, it seems like most of the weight is in the top box, which is totally fine, but this is exactly what I was hoping would happen. Hopefully you can see that. But putting the fondant patty in between the boxes, it looks like it enticed the bees that have moved up in the top box at some time to come down and use the pollen sub. So far, so good. Moving right along, up next is number 11. They have 3 of the 4 corners left in the fondant patty, so they're probably good for a few more days. And as far as the pollen sub goes, they have consumed, it looks like they have consumed the most. They might have a ¼ pound left, so point is they still have some remaining. Next one is number 19. I have this one configured differently because they are a single deep, so this is interesting. So they have consumed all of their fondant, and they're definitely on the pollen sub. So that's 2 hives. Again, this is number 19, and the very first one, which I think is 24, or no, that's not right. The first one is 12. They also need some fondant. So that's 2 so far. All right, number 20 is next. A few minutes in between videos, but I was looking for a stick or two to mark those 2 hives that need some fondant. They have 3 of the 4 corners, so they should be good until the weekend. And looking at the pollen, they've consumed half, or maybe just a little more than half. So they have at least a quarter pound left. They've consumed 2 of the 4 portions that I gave them. I'll show you this hive since it's close to the camera, but they are actively working the fondant, which is exactly what you would like to see, and they have a decent amount left. At this point as well, I don't think I mentioned this, but at this point as well, all the hives are basically like in a different stage or time frame. They've consumed 2 of the 4, so they're good until the weekend. They're all in a different time frame of the fondant, so they all received it at the same time. But then obviously due to colony strength differences, they've consumed it at different intervals. So to be expected, some are going to run out sooner than others. Some may not need some for the entire winter just because they had very nice stores accumulated. All right, here we go, number 6. Yeah, same thing. They're doing a pretty nice job with the fondant. This top box has some weight to it also. And yeah, they're about halfway through, so about a quarter pound remaining. All right, I had to sit the camera down on the next hive, which is obviously a decent distance in between, or well, from number 5. In fact, about two hive spaces. All right, so it looks like of the second bag I gave them, they are done with that, and I'm pulling that so I can recoup the feeding tool for one of the other ones. And most likely I place the fondant in between the top box and the next one, and that thing is heavy. Yeah, sure enough. All right. So far, they have consumed the most. I will need to replace their pollen sub first, but they should be good until the weekend. Up next is number 7. All right, same thing. They have about 2 of the 4 corners left in the fondant. And let's see, the box wasn't really centered well. They have the majority of their pollen left. This might be a smaller colony, but that pollen will definitely serve them well. All right, number 25. Okay, they have like a corner left in, I'll just show you, actually 2 corners, but none of the bees are working it. So I'm gonna pull it and I'll rip that bag apart and add the little bit of fondant to another bag that I'll give another colony at some point. Let's see how they're doing. That top box has some weight to it, and they have consumed exactly half of the pollen. All right, down here at 18. Oh wow, they need a resupply. Yeah, check this out. They have one last little bit in the corner, and the bees are on it. All right, so that's 3 colonies that need fondant, and oh wow, they are completely gone with pollen. So that's 3 fondants and at least a half a pound of pollen for number 18. All right, number 9. They have a decent amount of fondant left. They don't really need that stick anymore. I'm assuming they had 2 bags at one point. All right, let's take a look at their fondant, or pollen actually. All right, they'll be good until the weekend. They have, well, let's see. They've consumed maybe 3 quarters. All right, up next, number 22. Again, they don't need that stick. That was just to help them get to a second bag for a little bit. And pollen, they have a little bit left. I'll get into them this weekend. All right, last but not least, number 8, they actually need some fondant. So that's 4 fondants and ½ a pound of pollen. And pollen wise, they're on it. They have a lot left, but they're definitely on it. All right, there you have it, folks. Does not take long at all, but to recap real quick, 4 colonies. So the first one here, basically the ones with the sticks, right? The single deep here, and then I think that's number 5. The numbers are on the back. And then the last one, number 8, that you just saw. 4 of them need fondant. I was smart enough to order more than I thought I needed, so I'll go grab some from the shed, and then ½ a pound of the pollen sub, which is awesome to see. That colony ate a complete ½ pound in 8 days, so I am excited to see if I can tell a difference, right? Because I've never used it before, but considering the time of year, the bees are bringing in pollen, don't get me wrong, but they're not bringing in a lot. So the substitute, right, in theory, should really help them rear some brood. I'm really trying to get a jump start on the season for the first time. I usually just let nature do its thing, but hey, if I'm here and I'm available and I can help, why not? All right, let me grab that stuff from the shed, resupply those colonies, show you a few clips of that, and that'll be it for today. All right, again, number 12, definitely in need of some fondant. And again, smart enough to buy more than I thought I needed. So I know I've shown this before, so any repeat customers, you've seen it, but if you're new to the channel, this tool that Hive Alive sells, pretty cool in the sense that it makes a perfect circle, and then you simply insert it with the feet into the bag, because as the bees eat the fondant, it creates a perfect area. It raises the bag, so it doesn't collapse on them, and it seems to work as advertised because they can access every little bit of fondant in the bags. All right, so number 19, pretty simple, same thing really, not much to it. And as I say all that, somehow I think I managed to come out with one bag less of what I need for fondant. So if that is the case, I'll just have to make another trip, which is not far at all, but I thought I could remember the simple fact of how many bags of fondant I needed. Either way, it's all good. So there you go. There's some more for you. I have no doubt you will enjoy and put that to use. All right, I'm gonna take care of number 8 here, since they need some fondant before I get into, I'm pretty sure it was number 18 that was completely out of pollen. And the reason I'm doing this is because the hives aren't really disturbed all that much to replace the fondant, but there's a greater potential of really disrupting the hives, more so to replace the pollen. All right, that did not take long at all. I also put 2 sticks on top of this hive, and managed to forget within minutes what that meant. And what that meant was they needed both fondant, as you can see, and pollen. So let's take care of the fondant real quick. Bing, bam, boom. Just a matter of moments. And man, it is windy. I couldn't believe the weather app when I was looking at it earlier because it said there was wind gusts up to like 20 miles an hour, but I believe it now. The top cover. But yeah, check this out. Completely gone. 100% consumed a half pound of pollen sub in 8 days. So the same as last time, since it seems to work, right? If it works, why change it? Just gonna give them 4 corners, half pound, maximizes the surface area if I didn't happen to explain that or mention that earlier, but yeah, they are looking good. It's a nice amount of bees in between the boxes, so set this down semi-gently, but at the same time, you want to make sure the boxes are lined up and everything because we're in the woods, literally, but we are not out of the woods, figuratively, I guess, or vice versa, because we still have at least a month. I haven't looked, so I'm just going off memory. At least a month of winter left, and I haven't looked too far out, like the 10-day forecast, but the evenings are semi-cool. Obviously, it's 72 degrees right now. Last night's overnight temps, I think it got down into the low 40s, which is cold, right? But it's definitely not sub-freezing, and the colonies can handle that stress. Temps in the low 40s, they can handle that way better than what we experienced a few weeks ago, like single-digit numbers, which probably contributed to some of the losses I experienced. But yeah, hey, there you go, folks. Quick inspection, quick resupply. Four colonies needed fondant, as you can see, and the one colony down here needed the half pound of pollen sub resupply. So like usual, thanks for watching. Stay tuned, of course. I cannot wait for the warm days to be here and stay here, meaning we are a few weeks into spring, because that's usually when it really gets nice for us. The next clip, if everything goes well, I plan on hanging some swarm traps this weekend, which also means I'll need to clean a few out, bait them, and then get them hung. I was thinking about this the other night. So the tree, that set of 3 trees right there, that is like prime swarm territory. And then on the corner of the property, that's always good for a few during the year. The back corner is actually done pretty well. So that's 3. There's a spot or 2 down the path that usually catches some. That's 4 over within the fence line on that side. That's usually good for a few. That's 5. And I was thinking where to put this 6th one because I wanted to change it up this year, because again, if I walk back this way and that group of 3 pines that are kind of close to each other, there's another tree closer to the road where I usually hang a trap, but last year I don't think it caught anything. If it caught a swarm, something looked off with that one. If it caught a swarm, it may have caught 1. So considering that location didn't do all that well last year, I'm gonna change it up and find like a 6th spot. And since I have a plan to clear out some of this brush this summer, I may explore deeper into our wetlands area. There are some nice openings, so I may explore back that way to hang a trap, but all TBD. Today's Wednesday, so Thursday, Friday, and then I'll be out here Saturday. I got 2 plus days, if you look at it that way, to basically make up a plan for that one. But the other 5, I'm definitely putting them in the same locations, because I don't need to catch a lot of swarms. I catch probably an average of 15. Some are mine and some aren't. The reason I say that is because my queens are marked, and most of the swarms I catch have an unmarked queen. So I'm good for about 15. And honestly, that is enough to fill out the yard and then some, which currently, based off my setup that I know y'all have seen plenty of times, but currently 20 hives to 23 hives is comfortable to practically max capacity out here. All right, that's it for me. Stay tuned. We'll see how the rest of the month goes, but give you a little bit of a precursor to what I plan on doing this weekend. Not really much to show, but I'll share a few clips just to share it with y'all. All right, hey, welcome back everybody. So here it is, Saturday, February 28th, right after 1:30, and it has warmed up to a very comfortable 63 degrees, 70% humidity. And in fact, this morning, the temps were in the high 40s. And let me show you what I am looking at right now. Check this out. You think the bees are enjoying the warm temps or what? I'll walk around to the front, of course, here in a second. This is what I've been waiting to see for quite a few months. Check out this activity. That is a beautiful thing. Look at the orientation flights down here in the middle. So we'll just walk down the line like usual. I'll explain what I plan on doing today and then show you a few clips of all that. That'll be it for today, and then I'll explain the plans I have for tomorrow as well. Holy smokes. I mean, some appear a little more strong than others, but that's to be expected. Look at that one. That's second to last one. All right, I may have said this earlier with my intentions of doing this last week, but due to the weather, I decided to postpone things. So what I'm getting at is today I am pulling the swarm traps out, baiting them, and hanging them, which is about right on time when I usually do it, because I typically start catching swarms about mid-March. So now is a good time to get them, in the trees. The bees can kind of sniff them out, check them out over the next few weeks in anticipation of catching some swarms here very soon. All right, so tomorrow's weather is, according to the phone's weather apps, it should be in the low 70s. So for us, it should be probably in the mid 70s. So tomorrow I plan on getting into the hives, actually conducting the first inspection for the season. Most likely I'll probably have to reverse some boxes, so that's to be expected. And then of course, replace the pollen substitute and then any fondant patties. Here we are, right on the verge of March, and it is looking absolutely great. All right, just a quick update. It hasn't even been maybe 30 minutes, definitely less than an hour, but dragged all the swarm traps out, and thanks to the few dead outs I've had between January and February, this is what I plan on doing this year. So there are 5 frame swarm traps, and I usually run at least one frame, one used draw frame, maybe 2. But as you can see for this year, I plan on running 3 drawn frames, and then the other 2 will be essentially new frames that are slightly waxed. We'll see how this works. And then if you're new to the channel, I just use vitamin bottles, drill some holes in it, bait it with lemongrass oil off Amazon, use a few cotton balls, and that seems to work just fine. Right, so at this point, I just need to bait them. I'll get them staged where I plan on putting them. I'll share that with y'all, of course. Get them hung, maybe share a clip of that, and that should be it for today. So it's just about 4:30. I'm finishing up, and since I needed to top off the spray bottle of lemongrass oil, I figured I would just show you what I've been using over the last few seasons. It seems to work well. I have not checked to see if it is still available to purchase on Amazon, but last year or maybe the year before, it was for, I think, like maybe $15 or something. So this is what I've been using. Majestic Pure Cosmeticals lemongrass essential oil, 100% pure natural 4 ounces. 4 ounces for, let's just say, less than 20 bucks. Whereas Swarm Commander, last time I looked, was like maybe $30 or $35 for an ounce. So teach their own, but that stuff seems to work. All right, I was gonna say that's a new location. It's a location I don't use often. So not last year, but maybe the year before, I ended up hanging the trap pretty far up because I usually look for branches that I can rest the trap on, and that just makes it easier to secure the ratchet strap. But this year, for the first time, it's not a French cleat or anything like that. It's just it's like a 2x6, 2 screws into the tree, and that just gives me a base to rest the trap on as I'm balancing from the ladder, and then I can secure the ratchet straps. All right, so like I said, I've used that location before. I've caught swarms from it before, but let's just walk out here to the yard one more time. The bees are still pretty active. Yeah, that is absolutely fantastic to see. And then I'll show y'all, if you're new to the channel, I'll show you where I have a lot of luck catching swarms, which is very close to the yard. So I'll show you this location, and then I'll talk about moving swarms real quick, and maybe dispel some of the stuff we're taught or we learn through our clubs and everything. But this trap right here, or this location right here, is a money maker. So as you can see, trap, yard. Let's count the distance. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'd say 6, 7, maybe 8 yards. So less than 25 feet. And I will catch swarms in that location. I'll move the trap down on top of the ladder, and then over the course of a few days, I'll move them right onto the hive stand, and I have no problem with them re-swarming. Sometimes I'll do that. I'll move them incrementally, and sometimes I won't. Sometimes I'll take the trap down off of the tree, close up the entrances, and then just move them over on top of the hive stand, leave them closed up for maybe a day, and that seems to work just as well. But yeah, I will be out here tomorrow to get into the hives for the first time, and I am looking forward to it. This will wrap up February's video. Thanks for watching. I appreciate y'all. If you're new to the channel, hey, if you could hit that subscribe button, it does not go unnoticed. And to all my subscribers, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking with me. I haven't said this in a while, but feel free to share the videos with your family and friends. And if you're in or around the Jacksonville, North Carolina area, or watching this video, it doesn't matter where you are, I guess, and you want some truly delicious, local, and raw Eastern North Carolina honey, you're in luck, because we have a very limited amount left from spring of 2025's harvest. Just go to the banner on YouTube, hit the link that'll take you over to our Square site, place your order. For local folks, you can just come by the house for easy porch pickup. For everybody outside the local area, or if you just can't make it over to us, just hit the shipping option, and we typically ship in a day or two. I try to be very, very fast when an order comes through for shipping. So, all right, hey, with that said, this wraps it up for February. I cannot wait for March, which is tomorrow, right? Because that means we are 20 days away from spring. All right, stay tuned. We'll see what happens in March. Catch y'all next time.